Welcome to The Trouble with Football, the show where football's irritations get the spotlight they deserve. Now, I'm sure you understand how this all works, so I'll just cut to the chase. This week, my guest with a gripe is Josh Shreeve. Now, Josh works for BBC Radio and presents Total Sports Squad Goals, a show covering all of the EFL action across the weekend. You can also hear him on Josh Shreeve's Football Fix on Voices Radio, where he plays the best football-related music. And when he's not doing any of that, he's working for BBC Radio 1 and, of course, posting on socials about football and music. You can see him on TikTok and Instagram. So, without further ado, Josh, welcome to Trouble with Football. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
You're very welcome.
Absolute pleasure to be on.
Is this the good time to talk about? I mean, most shows I always sort of bring up the very first question, I suppose, is about football first and the team that you support. So let's get that out of the way straight away.
I'd be kind of shocked if you weren't asking me a football question to start with.
Well, that's a good start, isn't it?
Totally.
Who do you support?
Well, as listeners can probably hear, I'm a Southerner, so I therefore support Man United.
Of course. Silly me. Silly me. So tell me about Manchester United and Josh. How has that relationship been?
Well, do you know what? It's an interesting one because I grew up initially not really understanding football or liking it. Yeah. My dad never thrust it upon me. And when I say this next sentence, it's going to sound mad. My dad was a Leeds fan, or is a Leeds fan.
Oh, right. Okay.
Also from the south. So he's from Ealing in London. He's a Leeds fan. He didn't push football upon me, maybe because it was around the time, sort of early 2000s, when Leeds was starting to go into freefall.
Yes.
Maybe that's why. And I used to actually spend most of my time, the only interest I had in football was running around the playground with a sparkly microphone, pretending to be a commentator, which is probably why I've gone into this industry rather than playing professionally. But all my mates were into it. And then Euro 2004 came around. And right. I don't know if you remember, Sainsbury's were doing these shiny silver coins with the England squad's face on, actually.
Yes, absolutely, yeah.
And I think even if you're not a football fan, there's usually a tournament that you'll get into the hysteria of. And for whatever reason, I was about 9 years old and I started watching that one. And there was a young player called Wayne Rooney who...
Whatever happened to him?
Yeah, I know. I think he's trying to do this right now. He's trying to do his own podcast, isn't he? So he didn't need the sparkly microphone to do that. But effectively just watched him and that England team and sort of, for want of a better phrase, fell in love with him. And I remember sort of then loving football and later that summer trying to work out who to support. And weirdly, again, not everything's kind of cross-referencing in my head, but listening to Radio 1 and on Newsbeat, them going, Man United have signed a deal for Wayne Rooney a week before the end of the transfer window. And obviously I knew who Man United were. It's one of those teams where it's not like, who?
No,
so,
fair point.
So that was that, basically.
So from that point of view then onwards, when did you first get a chance to actually go to Old Trafford and see Manchester United? Or was it an away game? How did it work?
It was actually quite a long time. So my friend was a Liverpool fan.
Blimey.
But his dad was a Man United fan. See,
okay.
in Bucks, we didn't do it by halves. It was going everywhere.
Jeez, okay.
So his dad, through his work or something at the time, got us tickets to go to Man United Liverpool when we did a dinner beforehand or lunch. I think I must have been about 15. And then we were sat in the slightly nicer seats in Old Trafford. The seats aren't that nice if you've been recently. And we were sat in front of Neville. And the match was Neville, the father of Gary Neville and Phil Neville, for those who don't,
in case anyone didn't realise, but so nice they named him twice. I got it, yeah.
And that was the Evra Suarez match after the whole racism incident, and it was where United won, I think 2-1. Rooney scored, and then the handshake didn't happen at the start of the game, and then Evra celebrated sort of in front of Suarez after. So a lot going on. That really sticks out in memory for multiple reasons.
That was such a tumultuous game, wasn't it? It was so much riding on it for the fans, for the players as well. Just the whole atmosphere. That must have been a hell of an atmosphere to go to, especially as your first game as well.
Yeah, because I weirdly, like, I grew up going to football, but because of where we lived, my dad took me, and also the fact we didn't support the same teams, my dad took me to quite a lot of England games, a lot of qualifiers. So, yeah, it was nice to, I'd probably been to a Wickham game or two, probably by
Yeah.
that age, but it was nice to actually go and feel the heat of the club rivalry there.
Well, what a one to pick, blimey. Listen then, so Man United fan, okay, but you alluded to it a little bit a minute ago as well about running around in the playground with a microphone, pretending to be a commentator. So obviously you've moved into that world now. You work for BBC Radio and you do quite a cool little show, in my opinion. So it's called Total Sports Squad Goals for a start, that one. And well, talk me through it. How did that come about? How did you get to start doing what a lot of people would love to do, which is work in BBC Radio and talk about football?
Yeah, it is a great job. I love doing it. And also expanding the fact it's in the EFL. So my knowledge obviously primarily is being a Man United fan, Premier League, international. So it's great to broaden that out. I guess I started around the sort of P word pandemic. We won't dwell on that too much, but as a lot of people did, sort of just giving things a go. I was working at Radio 1 and doing the music thing and the entertainment thing and working on the breakfast show there as a producer. And I'd always liked interviewing mainly bands, actually. But then I was like, well, I like interviewing anyone really, and I like talking as well as coming up with the ideas. So I decided that I would start doing a little football show on a community station called Islington Radio, where you could record from your bedroom, a bit like we're sort of doing now. And I would chat to football fans about 10 songs they linked to why they got into supporting Fulham, or like, you know, stadium anthems,
Cool.
or they might, you know, we play a bit of their music, we might play a bit of their rivals' music of another famous band or whatever. And I built that up and then just started making the links with, like, football is ingrained in so many other things in pop culture, be it TV, music. I mean, the memeability of stuff online now is outrageous. It makes me sick sometimes how much there is. But I've always liked the thing with, like, words and music and, like, tying it to football and current sort of affairs, for want of a better word. And yeah, had a chat with the guys at Total Sports Squad Goals and they sort of got me on board. I've done a variety of roles there. Sometimes I'm on the mic reading out disappointed Leicester fans when they got relegated and looking at what they're tweeting and stuff. And other times is making packages about all the signings that are happening that week, all the daft stuff going on in football. And that interweaves with the sort of 2.5, 3 hours of live. There's been a goal at Rotherham. Well, not many goals this season, but there's been a goal here, there, everywhere. So yeah, it's really cool to do and do it with some other people sort of down the line in Manchester. I tend to do it from London, and we cover all sorts. It's great.
Oh, it's a really cool idea, and I think anyone, like I say, it's anyone that sort of has the idea, the dream to sort of work in sports and broadcasting at the same time. It must be so much fun. I'm sure it's hard work, but it's also a bit of a scratch me in some respects that you know you get to do that sort of fun stuff as well. It must be great.
Yeah, it is great. I've always got like a constant notes on my phone of like, oh, did you see Ed Sheeran was spotted at Ipswich Town, as he always is, and then finding ways that I can interweave some Ed Sheeran lyrics into the coverage. You've probably got a lot of listeners at home just going, get on with it. I want to know the scores and who's scored. Stop this naff talk.
No, I love it. I love it. I think we can't just ignore the fact that you're quite right. Football is no longer a two-dimensional thing. It's got so many different leaves to it. And that probably brings me on to my next question, which is, you know, you've got this other piece that I really love this show. So you work on Voices Radio as well, doing, as I say, the Josh Shreeves Football Fix, which for anyone that hasn't seen it or heard it, It's just a cool little record show, as I would call it, which is like, you're playing music that sort of links in some way or intertwines with the sport of football. And it's a cool little thing that you do. And you have a guest sort of co-presenter on as well. And anyway, I'll let you explain it a bit better. But I was just saying offline, wasn't I, that it's just such a great idea. And I think the concept that we all have now, especially with like the gaming world as well, you think of like FC 26 or EA Sports in general and stuff like that. The old FIFA games, they all had music attached to them, didn't they? And it became such a more intertwined thing that you doing this, I think, is a fantastic idea. So how did that come about? Talk to me.
I mean, that's very kind, because I think it's very sad, and I'm constantly looking.
Well, maybe I'm just very sad too.
Yeah. Well, let's revel in the sadness, and let's be honest, nostalgia, to be honest, because I always say that FIFA for me was like the original Spotify. Yeah. It's the first place I heard Block Party Helicopter on FIFA 06 and suddenly went, oh my God, I love indie music and I want to listen to this forever. And
that's so good, yeah.
Now for a different generation, it's probably discovering a new rapper or something. I mean, they've broadened their horizons more to mainstream. I like going really niche, so at the moment there's a Netflix documentary on Ronaldinho, right? So I went, okay, what covers was Ronaldinho on, and what Latin American music was on those sort of soundtracks. Yeah. So I just love it. It's a good excuse to sort of dig into archive stuff. There's a DJ duo who I'm sure plenty of people know called Disclosure, who have just put out a new tune. So what I'll do is go, oh my God, they were on FIFA 12 years ago. Let's play that as well. Yeah. And then the bit I love, as you mentioned, is getting on guests to talk about the football, basically, and the tracks that link to, might be a match day, what you'd hear in a stadium before. It might be their song that was used on football coverage for their club, which is always great to hear. Maybe they've been on FIFA, that kind of stuff. So we've had like Tom Grennan, Wolf Alice, Bombay Bicycle Club, Paige Cavell recently, like a right mix of people. And I try and sway away from the Three Lions, to be honest, and Vindaloo, because that's a bit obvious, isn't it? But I'm sure, like you as a Brighton fan, you've probably got, like, if you've gone to games, maybe it's not even the first one that jumps out to your head, but you're like, oh God, they played that forever in the stadium, and I don't know why.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. As soon as that sort of concept, when I understood what the show was about, it's like suddenly things just flood into your head, and you're like, yeah. Apart from just the computer games, actually, there's all these other things as well, and like it's even random rubbish, like from the early mid to 80s, where Chris Waddle and Glenn Hoddle put a single out called Diamond Lights. That comes through my mind as well. And it's like just random stuff like that. We even had at Brighton, being a Brighton fan, like we had a Dutch striker in the early days of us being in the Premier League, Jurgen Lecardia, right? Terrible striker, not a bad producer. Right?
Oh,
he released some music, he wasn't too bad, but there's these sort of random things. But anyway, yeah, look, it's a great show. And I honestly, I do listen to it. I think it's a really good listen. And I would say to anybody, if you have a chance to listen to it, get your ears onto it, because it's a great listen. It's Voices Radio, isn't it? That's right.
Voices Radio, yeah, and you can find it on Mixcloud and SoundCloud. You can even actually on the Mixcloud, when we're live, they've got like a camera set up, so you can watch us larking about and miss-hitting songs at the wrong times and playing clips of footballers over the top and all sorts.
Well, listen, I suppose it's time now. We've had enough talking about Man United, your music career as such. You're my guest with a gripe, so I'm going to hand over to you for a minute, Josh, and you tell me, what's the trouble with football?
Well, Neil, I think the trouble with football is international squads, and they're just in a bit of a mess at the moment. They've become a bit of a mess at this day and age. There's various things to go at here from all angles. I think the size of them is too big. I think there's not very much excitement or jeopardy in being included in an international squad, especially in England as well. We'll talk about like other countries and how they do them, because it is phenomenal. It's like a soap opera for other countries. That sort of privilege of being included doesn't really feel like it happens anymore. There's not really any media fallout for people that don't make it because the squads are so big. So yeah, I was thinking the other day, when did that 23-man squad stop being a 23-man squad? And what was so incredibly neat about it was you could have two of every position plus an extra keeper, because we all know we need three keepers for whatever reason. I think England at the last World Cup took a fourth in, who was it? It was Tom Heaton, wasn't it?
Tom Heaton, yeah, he was a coaching goalkeeper, which
Yeah,
I think
not
we're
a
going to
thing.
have this. I think we're going to have it this time as well, aren't we? With a Brighton keeper, Jason Steele, I think. So yeah, looks like it. I mean, do you know what, Josh? Honestly, it's a really interesting topic, and it's not your usual VAR or offside talk. This is something niche, and I wouldn't expect anything less from you, Josh, if I'm honest. So I like this. Well, look, you mentioned the numbers. Let's start there. Okay, so I did some digging, and did you know that 23 players only came into being in 2002?
Oh, wow.
So it was actually only 22 players from 1930 to 1998, i.e. World Cups, basically, is where it was 22 players only. So that's even more exact two teams. That's it. That's all you get.
Is that because some teams found that both their keepers were injured at some point and they were like, we need a third keeper?
It's basically, yeah. So the argument was that it was such a specialist role that you couldn't put somebody else out of the other, 20 players left. You couldn't put somebody else in there. So their argument was we need one more just in case the worst happens and two goalkeepers either get injured or one gets sent off in a game, and then, all those sorts of things. So yeah, 2002 World Cup was the first time we saw 23 players. And then you're quite right, bring it back up to 22, i.e. 2022, mainly due to COVID and the timing of the World Cup as well, it being in a mid-season in the Western world, that it was up to 26 players. And the 2026 World Cup, they've confirmed it will be 26-player squad again. So they have there was a few people talking about how they changed the squad around, but actually they've made a rule now as well saying that it has to be a minimum of 3 goalkeepers. So just in case anyone thought they might try and add an extra player in there, no, it has to be 3 goalkeepers minimum.
Yeah, so, that's brave, isn't it? Or even going, we'll just take one keeper. Pickford's never injured, couldn't possibly happen. Forget the coaching one.
It's an interesting one because they've even got rules about injuries. So you take the most recent sort of international window where Thomas Tuchel in his England squad, obviously he most recently said he wanted a 32-man squad, I think he brought in, or something like that.
I think it was 35.
Was it 35?
It was
okay.
Silly. Yeah.
It was 140 people, whatever it was. It was a lot, right? And it was mainly just to see people, and I get that. But what he does in the summer, like all the other squads will do for this World Cup, is they will announce a 55-man squad first, and then they have a deadline to nominate 26 players for the squad. And then if something happens, I think it's up to 24 hours before the first match of that squad, that team, they can then, if it's like serious injury or illness or something, they can replace someone from the original big squad into the smaller squad. I mean, it's like, how many more chances do you want to give someone?
It's too many rules, isn't it? I think going back to my Sainsbury's coin collection,
yes,
I seem to remember this had your 23-man squad for the Euros. I think it must have been that, right? And then it had 3 extras. So I remember Ian Walker, being the Leicester keeper at the time, was like a backup one. I think Ledley King might have been one as well. And they had their own little section, which was a bit brutal, but I don't know if any of them...
on the side.
Yeah,
just sort of like,
literally.
Not really, like, it's not for the squad, but not really.
Yeah. But that was a visual representation to me as a child of this is how it works. Like, you don't need more rules than that. Like, have your 23-man, have a couple that you could call in, but whittling it down each time. It's like X Factor or something. Like, you've made it through to the next round. Well done.
That would be amazing. Do you know what? They should do that. Could you imagine that? Like a live knockout show where like Thomas Tuchel's sitting at like a big bench with a buzzer or something. And he brings on each player and says, you've had a good week. I've been really proud of you. But you know what? I'm going to go in a different direction. Or something.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I said earlier, they kind of like, if you look at Brazil and stuff, it's a vent TV for the players and their families. There will be saddos like you and I that tune in as well with our popcorn and beers and watch it as well because it's a big thing. But it's huge. Like, I think Thiago from Brentford striker, he just got a call up recently, and there's a whole thing with, it's always quite hard for Brazilian strikers to get into the team if they don't play, quote, Big Six team or a PSG or Real Madrid or whatever. And he's just got called up, and it was like incredible scenes for him. And you see, like, they go to social media straight away. There's like cameras on them. Their family are all crowding around the TV, like, are they going to make it through?
It is lovely to see that.
We don't need to go that far with England necessarily, but like there really is. We've taken every ounce of excitement, privilege playing for the squad. Like, I don't think anyone's going to turn around when Thomas Tuchel names this provisional squad and even the 26 man and go, that's mad. How's he not taken them? You're not getting, unless he does a Sven and takes like Max Dowman, like Sven to Theo Walcott.
Now there's a subject matter. Do you know what? I was going to ask you about that because there have been occasions in the past where the excitement of an announcement squad is taken over by shock because somebody has put in someone that no one was expecting. And, you know, that is the fun bit, let's be honest, of any announcement, any squad announcement. There's always that one where is such and such going to get a chance? And in this day and age of social media, you tend to hear everything before it actually happens. You get the whisper, you see it on social media. Ornstein probably tweets it, or, you know, you hear a mate down the pub is no longer visible. It's always on the X account now. Someone says something or whatever. But back in the day, there have been occasions when I can think of two. I'm a little bit older than you, and I can think of probably one that's not Theo Walcott before that. But let's talk about Theo Walcott, because that's a big one. Because at the time, it was huge. It was a huge news story. Sven-Göran Eriksson calling up Theo Walcott, who I think was 17 at the time, I think he was. He hadn't played a single minute under Eriksson before that. And he said, no, do you know what? I'm going to bring him along to the 2006 World Cup. That's what I'm going to do. I mean, at that moment in time, the press went mental for it. They really did. Yeah. Do you remember the situation?
No, I do. And rightly or wrongly, the press going mad for it. But that is the 23-man squad. You haven't really got room to play about with that, which is what's mad. I'm looking at the squad now. Like, I mean, I can't remember rightly if there was injuries, but Stuart Downing's in there and Theo Walcott are in there.
Yeah.
Where's Sean Wright-Phillips at the time? He must have been sniffing about and on the periphery.
The two strikers that didn't go that were scoring lots of goals at the time were Jermaine Defoe and Darren Bent.
Defoe. Wow.
So out of both of them, I mean, Bent was hit and miss, but Jermaine Defoe, I mean, goal scorer supreme, he didn't go because Theo Walcott went. And Sven-Göran Eriksson, I mean, he's been interviewed many years ago over different occasions, and he's been asked a lot of questions, and the Theo Walcott comes up a lot. And I've got a quote here. He just simply said, why didn't you take somebody else, blah, 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 why did you take Walcott? And he just said, the player picked at number 23 will not win the World Cup for you. And it's like, oh, okay. Like, brilliant. Yeah. Okay.
I don't know, because I reckon there have been some players. Like, who wasn't there a player? I can't remember his name. Who scored the winning penalty for Argentina in the last World Cup? But he came off the bench. Like, he was second left back or third right back or something.
Yeah, there's been lots. I mean, one of the things that's most surprising when you think about squads and surprise selections, in Italy, right? So if you think back, this is a long time ago. I appreciate, it's a very long time ago, but when it works, sometimes surprise selections, you've got things like Paolo Rossi, who 1982, yes, it's a long time ago. For anybody born after that, I apologise, but I'm an old man, right? And I remember some classic World Cups. 1982, Paolo Rossi was included in the Italian squad. Now, he's a good goal scorer, right? He was a very good striker, but the issue was at the time that he had just returned from a match fixing ban. He would literally have been banned for match fixing. Like, it was unbelievable, right? And he wasn't fit, but the manager then, I think Bearzot was his name, Enzo Bearzot, right? He selected him, and he was roundly criticised by everyone. right? And he said, no, this is my pick. This is my choice. And, everyone was beside themselves as to why they would pick him. Well, it ended up at being a complete masterstroke. Rossi was the player of the World Cup. If anybody doesn't realise, he scored a hat-trick in the quarter-final against Brazil. He scored 2 goals against Poland in the semi-final, and he scored one of the goals to see off West Germany in the final to get Italy the World Cup. So there are very big opportunities for players to suddenly surprise a squad. But the other one, I don't know if you know this, but the Steve Bull as well. Do you remember Steve Bull, the Wolverhampton Wanderers striker as well? Bobby Robson took him to a World Cup, Italia 90. And at the time, he was a second division player.
Walcott was almost a second division player because he'd come from Southampton, I want to say in the January to Arsenal. My memory could be completely off here. But as you mentioned, hadn't played for Arsenal. So his latest sort of outings as a player, other than to McDonald's with his mum and dad, were probably playing for Southampton in the Championship at the time. So it's kind of like, I would understand it now. I mean, based on this and the fact he hasn't played for Arsenal, you might as well give Max Staumann the captain's armband for England if it was Sven these days. And I can kind of see a world where, in fact, no, who am I kidding? I can't see a world where Max Staumann goes, and you can clip that up if he does go, because I just think it would be obscene with the amount of players that deserve to get in this squad.
I suppose that's the point, though, isn't it? That right now, when we talk about England squads, England are one of the best teams in the world. They're best squads in the world. They've got a plethora of great options when it comes to attacking options. But interestingly, we've always had a little bit of an issue when it comes to striker. We've had the number 10s, we've had a lot of that. But when we talk about core strikers, you go back a long time to Gary Lineker and you bring it up to Alan Shearer and Harry Kane. You can always think of one big, number one, but number 9 striker, the single one great player that we've got. But actually, there have been lots of single sort of call-ups of the odd player here or there that, is this going to be the next new hope? And I suppose that's what you look at when you talk about international call-ups and the odd international sort of like surprise call-up. You think of things like David Nugent, for instance, right? Preston North End striker, right? It's again another second tier. That was 2007. One appearance. And he scored on his appearance.
Goals, didn't he? Yeah.
I mean,
was it like a tap-in or something?
Well, he literally took it off. I think it was Jermaine Defoe's or Darren Bent's, I think, shot, and it was on the line. It was just going to go over, but he thought he'd just touch it, so he got the goal. So he was. So that was that, and he made it one cap. Kevin Davies. I don't know if you remember Kevin Davies.
Oh yeah, big. Bolton striker, wasn't he? He was a big player for them.
Fabio Capello and his scattergun approach to just finding English players that could play in a certain location. Again, we were looking for a big number 9. He tried him. I think it was one cap as well. And he didn't make it to the Euros, but he was in selection for one game. So there have been those sort of like strange choices along the lines. I'm with you though about the situation when it comes to the announcements themselves. And how squads are looked upon across international other countries and things like that. You're quite right. Brazil do it best. I mean, the passion for these players and the families. And it's all televised, which is great fun as well.
And there is a theory where maybe in lesser years, there is a theory that amount of passion is then on the pitch. They care so much for playing for their country. In the case of Brazil, it's not gone their way for the past 2 decades, basically. And with England, maybe there is something to be said. I'm talking myself out of an argument here, aren't I?
Don't do that.
No. That's not the point of the podcast. But no, it almost feels like people don't really care. Like it's just sort of like a given, like because there is such an exposure to like so many of these players are playing in Europe and Champions Leagues and stuff like that. Like that sort of privilege of playing for your country has gone. I think part of it as well is like I'm a sucker for like, and again, this is why I never really played football and why I wasn't very good and I didn't really understand tactics. Whereas now everything's about tactics and formations and fluidity. And, you can't, if you're a left winger, you either cut inside on the right or you are a pure left winger with your left foot, sort of thing. In my head, as a FIFA player, I'm just like, well, you should be able to play across like the front three, sort of thing. Like, there's all these different formations that managers have brought in, like Pep and stuff. Get back to having the sort of your two right midfielders, your two left midfielders, your two attackers or three whatever it is, like two in every position. It's clean, it's easy, and you can kind of look at players and go, well, if he's injured, he comes on, obviously.
And there's more jeopardy in it as well, isn't there?
Oh yeah,
you know, there's so much more jeopardy. Watching like a right back having to play like left wing or a striker or something because you've got no one else. That sort of thing that used to happen.
And also, that feeds into therefore how many subs you have and how many can come off the bench. And it's lacking that, as you say, with Paolo Rossi. It's even to the substitution level of like, why on earth is this player coming on right now? I do actually remember Capello bringing on Heskey against Germany in 2010, and I stormed out the house. So maybe that is just as well that we can't quite go that risky, and we do have more fluid options, but there you go.
Oh, God. I mean, Capello is just one of those England managers that from the moment he came in, you were like, really? Is this going to work?
Weirdly, I mentioned I used to go to a lot of the qualifiers, and that was like core time for me. So I probably went to like 5 or 6 of those qualifiers, and England looked really hot. Like, we looked great.
It's qualifiers, though, isn't it?
It's qualifiers, but that's what I'm saying with Tuchel, or I have been saying. I think we could struggle. I mean, I hope we don't struggle, but this is the other thing, right? The last round of games that were played, there were, as you said, 32 or plus players in there. They weren't really playing for their place.
No.
You were having all the Arsenal players were ruling themselves out of playing, which was an absolute joke as well. That's another topic. But yeah, they were getting a sniff at it. None of them were taking it because they were thinking, well, there's 26 places on the plane. I made the last one. I think if it's 23, you're probably putting your neck out on the line a bit more and really putting in a performance. Also, injuries kind of come into it, don't they? Like, some people will be like, oh, I might not make it, but if I can stay fit, like a Jared Bowen right now is probably thinking, I'm on the cusp, but if I can keep West Ham up and I can stay fit, maybe I'll make it, sort of thing.
Yeah,
so yeah,
I mean,
it's all the jeopardy, as you say, is just sort of sucks out of it.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think it's also, you know, when you think of international squads and when it's particularly when we're talking about, you know, going to tournaments as well, there's so many stories around how the team and the squad have to gel together, the personalities. And that's become more of a thing now than it ever was before. You know, it's much more now about, are you a good tourist? If you're, you know, number 25 in the squad or whatever it is, you know, the one that's probably not going to play much, or are you going to stink the place out? You know, you've got stories from, even if we use your era of Capello, you know, we've got stories of him, you know, banning ketchup and making sure that not having games rooms and things like that, and instead, like, players had to talk to each other and they had to, you know, they were all off going into their own rooms and all these sorts of things. So there's a lot to do with squads, not just about the number, but about the squads having to get on in a very sort of, you know, intense pressurized location and place.
I think that's changed quite a lot through Southgate, and I'll always be an advocate for Southgate because I think by the end people were like, how's he not getting all these players who are world class to play? And it's like, did you watch England before 2018? Because it was a shambles every time. We've all heard, usually the ex-Man United players like Rio Ferdinand stuff, saying we didn't want to eat with you at the same table because you were playing for Liverpool, we were Man United. Like, what Southgate instilled was so key there. And I'm a big advocate as a Man United fan. Steve Holland is our coach now. He's been coach under Michael Carrick, and I think a lot of that obviously is to do with Gareth Southgate's coaching style and that whole group of things. But what I would say on the flip of that is having a 26-man squad does allow people who might just have a bit of experience and be nice guys around camp, like Jordan Henderson, like maybe Dan Burns going to be. And I don't believe they're bringing enough of that to warrant a place. I think you've got enough in that squad with Harry Kane is like the full package, right? He has the experience, the skill, but also the know-how and can bring through those younger players. Even to a certain extent, I'm kind of surprised that Trent Alexander-Arnold isn't in there based on skill and tournament experience. I think there might be questions around what he's like in the camp, but he has that experience. But if you're Tuchel as well, you're probably looking and going, Kyle Walker's no longer in the squad. Kieran Trippier's not going to go. John Stones, I think, will probably go along.
Just about, probably.
He's probably one of the exceptions, I would say. But I don't think you need like 4 or 5 of them who are just going to bulk up that squad and basically be what Jason Steele, as you said. He's got a steal, actually. He's got free holiday out of it, Jason Steele.
Don't you talk about my Brighton players. I totally get your point. I think when I think back to international squads, apart from things like, well, what we were just mentioning, really, morale and tournaments. The other thing that you have, apart from announcements, is also, you have the great photo opportunities and all the situations where they all have to wear their suits and they all have to, come together and get on the plane. I mean, that the whole situation of going on a plane together and all the photographers taking the pictures and them going up the steps.
Like they don't do it every other week.
Honestly, I love it. It's so like classic, isn't it? Of this whole, we're going now and we're going to come back with something great. And obviously they never bloody do. But it does make me think of one of the great sort of funny stories of, do you remember he's still going now, obviously, the comedian Simon Brodkin he used to do loads of pranks and things as well. He used to have a TV show where he was a character on there, a professional footballer, and he was like the stereotypical professional footballer. Jason Bent was his name. Well, he did this great prank where it was the 2014 World Cup in Brazil. And the England players were doing that photo opportunity where they were getting all suited up and they were getting on the plane and stuff. And somehow Jason Bent, I should say, dressed up like in a sharp suit, almost exactly the same to match the squad, right? He mingled in with the players, like literally and it's all outside. It's not in a like a gate or anything. It's outside on the tarmac. He somehow managed to get.
That's mad.
It's fantastic, right? There are pictures of it. I'll put it up on the screen, right? And there was. He managed to get there, mingling with the players, right? He even spoke to Steven Gerrard and said, "Where do I give my passport to?" and all this sort of stuff. And they were just looking at him, and a couple of them worked out it was a laugh, And I think there was, according to reports, someone said that it sort of baffled some of the players, but then security eventually sort of realised that he was, an interloper or whatever you want to call him, sort of thing. And they led him away. And there was these great photos taken of literally him arm behind the back and him being taken away. And one of his quotes afterwards, he just, in character, he just said, "Well, I don't know what I'm going to tell the Malaysian betting syndicate now." It's like, it was just, it was one of those moments where I don't know how someone did it, but that always comes to mind when I think of international squads leaving to go and win the tournament for you.
I'm quite worried that some of the players might not have clocked on that it was a random.
Scary, isn't it?
Yeah.
Scary.
But he's effectively gone and done what is, well, he's one step away or one flight away from all our dreams growing up there.
Another good point. That's another good point. Yeah, and I think that's the thing, isn't it? That ultimately, when we talk about international squads, we're just jealous, probably. And Josh, are you a little jealous? Is that what it is? That you just actually, you want to limit it so that everybody else has less joy? Is that basically the issue?
Yeah, come on, we want the cream of the crop here. I want, there's so many ways you can get into that England squad through having had a fantastic recent season, having been a great servant to your country in the past, having a mix of everything, as we've discussed. But I don't want it just because you're making the squads bigger and you think, oh, let's see what they're like in training. Or he's got lovely arms. I'm sure he could carry the water bottles. Not what they're needed for. Just have more coaches.
He's great at poker. He knows magic. Let's bring him along.
Exactly. The classic Roy Keane lines. It's nonsense, isn't it? Yeah.
Listen, Josh, thank you very much for being my guest this week. I really appreciated you coming on. It's been a lot of fun. And look, thank you for being on The Trouble with Football.
Pleasure. Well, I'm sure you'll keep an eye on me absolutely seething when those squad announcements come out. It's been great to get it off my chest, but yeah, I'm sure it will be more annoying very soon.
Well, thanks again. And look, thank you to everyone for watching and listening to this Trouble with Football. Now, remember, you can like and subscribe as it really helps the channel, and maybe even leave us a review if you want to spread the word. And finally, just remember that in football, it's the annoyances that keep us talking. So see you next time for more chat about Trouble with Football.